Had a little bit of a tech issue there, but we're all good to go here. And so I'll get started. Yeah, so time is going to start as soon as I press confirm here in a second. Yeah. So, Smelly McTroll, been running this game for a few years now. And this game has a fairly small community. I think just about 4 runners now. And I'll be joined on commentary by TheAxeMan.
Thanks for having me. I am actually here sort of on site, so but I'm really glad that Smelly McTroll was able to join us for TASGiving tonight.
Yeah, can you turn down our local volume?
Just to test, can you still hear me? If you can. Okay, we're gonna get started here. As soon as I press confirm, we'll just give a little countdown in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. All right, so you're dropped in the middle of the action in this game, and so you start out with kind of a boss fight. And then you kind of get used to some of the hitbox weirdness right from the start here. So to line up that strat, you have to kind of delay and get hit by the belly of the cat, which his hitbox expands towards you as he's doing his roar, and it kind of puts you in like the perfect spot to just do single slashes and take him out. Yeah. Should mention that this is almost a 1-for-1 remake of a Final Fantasy adventure.
Oh man,
I say almost because this version has to account for height, where the original was just flat. Beat the 2 cats and run over here, and we run into kind of the main 2 villains of the game, Julius and Stroud. And Stroud, in true mana fashion, is going to run and chase Sumo and knock him very far down this waterfall, and he's going to hit his head and wake up, and the game will get started proper.
He has a name now? He was just the Dark Lord in the original version.
He's still kind of the Dark Lord, but he's still the Stroud character. Stroud characters has been reused kind of throughout the Mana series. He reappears in Dawn, I believe, as well, which is almost like this game.
Okay. So you run quite a few of the Mana games. Have you run like all of them?
Not all of them. A lot of the contemporary games.
Okay.
Pretty much starting with like the World of Mana, which is like the Children, Dawn, and Hero cycle.
Okay.
And then these remakes as well.
That's right. Do you have a Switch to do there was the Legend of Mana remake, I think is the most recent one, right?
So throughout the first part of this game, I'm going to be trying to attack as little as possible and just trying to avoid the enemies. If I run into too many enemies, I can always use Fuji to heal. You do get what's called an ASK ability with each character, and you can see that little speech bubble in the top right here. There are some interesting things you can do with that, but Fuji is probably the most useful as far as the speedrun goes. She'll just heal you for quite a bit over time.
I've got nothing to say.
Yeah, and then we'll set off to Bogart's cabin. He tries to pretend that he's just a woodcutter, but then you'll walk into his cabin and you notice that it has a kind of curious name.
Have to fix that in post, but you do have 7 damage.
When I was playing this game with my son, the Hatchet Boy, we got to the woodcutter, and he talked to him. He said, "Go away," and it was hard to figure out. He had to talk to him multiple times. That's like the first kind of like RPG stumbling block, I think.
Is there any separation between on
Yeah, definitely like a sort of late 90s, or well, not late 90s, late 80s, early 90s sort of RPG stuff.
Oh yeah, it used to be standard. You've got to talk to him multiple times.
Man, I'm gonna bug the veil on this scene because I have so much.
Yeah, so we get the Maddock from Bogart's cabin, and then from Bogart's cabin onto a particular screen with a bunch of lizard man. I don't want to attack. So you'll see that red bar at the bottom. That's called the stamina bar, and that comes into play so very much in this run. You get a small time save if you just hold your fire all the way till you get to that lizard man room, which is much easier said than done.
Nice.
Before that, I'm going to pick up a few stacks of keys. These keys should take me through about the first half of the game. And I'm going to jump into the dangerous part of the walk here. So once you cross this bridge, you get into the swamp. And these enemies do deal 5 damage, but they also have a chance to poison you, which is
That
very
sounds bad,
scary.
yeah. How can you heal yourself if you get poisoned?
You can heal with Fuji, so she still does heal over time, and that sort of counteracts it. So you can just abuse that until you run into Ket Manor, which is our first real destination. Here you just rest anyway. Like, it's scripted, so it'll cure your ailment if you're still poisoned here.
Ah,
So you rest up, you get the cure spell, so you can now cure yourself. It's not over time though, it's all at the same time.
well, it's pretty convenient to have cure spell since,
So,
she's
best
now
you can.
gone.
And yeah, Fuji gets kidnapped. And we have to set off to find her. Not here just yet, though. Right now, I'm going to cross back over the swamp. Hope I have no enemies blocking this bridge, so I don't have to expend my stamina. Okay, there we go. And hopefully there's no Mudman on this screen coming up. Okay, that's good. All right. Yeah, so...
Nice.
Oh, okay, well... Saving a little less time than I would, but still saving time nonetheless. So you can use one of your power hits. The sword has 2 of them. So if you're pressing a direction, you just do what's called a sword dash. Sumo moves off in one direction and then he comes back the other. And with that, he's in iframes the entire time. He just kind of dumps all the damage into whatever target you hit. And he has the sword spin. The sword spin is actually pretty good, and we use that to kill pretty much all the bosses.
A man with a mask. He's not suspicious at
Coming
all.
over the Marsh Cave. I'm going to start antagonizing these kind of weird flying enemies. Those are leeches. They give you the most XP in this area, and they also drop Maddocks, and we love Maddocks. You can also play whack-a-mole with these, like, silly pink noodle head guys. And I want to try not to chase down enemies too much to save a bit of time, but I do want to push through and try to get level 6 before I get to this boss. A lot easier when there are a lot of leeches around.
So the man in the red outfit, is he, what kind of like help does he have?
I'm not sure if they have health, honestly, the helpers. If they get hit a couple times, they do go down and they recover after a while.
Oh, but does he do anything if you ask him, or do any other like helpful stuff to fight the enemies?
I actually forget what he does when you ask.
Okay.
I actually haven't done that in a while. I believe he just gives you a hint.
Yeah, I try to remember what these. Yeah, I think yeah, I think that's what it was in the original one.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've used his ask ability. I hardly use anyone's except Fuji's.
Yeah,
and the Chocobo. Got a Maddock drop. Enemies are
Marcy's
being
is
a bit
good
generous.
too.
But your partners will generally just try to attack in the same direction that you're attacking. Usually they just throw a projectile in that direction and try to hit the enemy. Some are more useful than others, for sure. Oh, no key drop here.
Ah.
Well, skeletons are kind of stingy when it comes to that. Yeah, this dungeon is basic, more or less. Yeah, the only real things you need in this one, one Maddock, one key, and this sickle. This sickle will come in handy and cut down these giant leaves here. Which is a general theme you'll notice with this game, is that besides the sword, every other weapon is also a tool. So you'll use it in the field in some manner. And again, I said 1-to-1 remake almost in the beginning. One of the things that they changed quite a bit, it's a huge improvement, are those 3 quick slots in the top right of the screen. It's like if anyone's ever played the original Final Fantasy Adventure, you know about the menuing, and it's a tad painful, but it's a Game Boy game, right? So what are you gonna do?
You've only got A and B.
Yeah, so you can equip weapons, you can equip items, you can equip spells, whatever you need into those quick slots. And it gets even better. If it's a consumable item and you have another stack of whatever that may be, the game just autofills it for you.
Cool.
So I can have as many Maddocks as I want. As soon as I run out of a stack of 7, then it's just going to throw in more Maddocks for me and more keys. It's a very, very good thing that they put that in there.
So I actually played through the Android version of this game, and it's surprisingly playable on, you got to have like a decent phone, but,
Okay, so Hydra. I wanted to have a power hit here with the sword so I can spin and drain most of his health, but this kind of works here. Sometimes he could just hang out in the middle of this lake and just avoid any sort of damage whatsoever. I'm mostly just going to be spamming the sickle here. Should go down pretty darn soon. Sometimes he goes in and tries to attack. Oop. Oh, I didn't see that fireball. Okay, so first death of the run. Hopefully there aren't too many more. Okay, maybe I'll just wait here for a second. When you're low level, that stamina bar just fills up so very slowly. With a lot of the bosses, I'll have sort of a back off screen where I just won't attack.
Yeah, some of the RNG on these bosses is really, can be pretty painful.
Okay, I'm just gonna wait for this. He should come forward here. It's not coming forward. Well, that was a waste. Oh man, Hydra, please.
Oh no.
All right, well, I'm gonna go into backup strats here. I'm gonna just cure myself.
I mean, to be fair, you're at a low level and you didn't buy any armor or anything, so there's all sorts of stuff like you could have gotten that you just rushed through here.
This fight is fairly tough as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you stand at the perfect spot, you can actually block those shots. I might just wait and try to spin here. That's probably the best option in this scenario, especially since he's free firing at Julius.
Yeah, the mysterious man, he's not a whole lot of help. Sometimes his...
Okay, this isn't working out.
I think his fireballs hurt the boss, but it's not... doesn't really hit him that well.
It's not very much, though.
This remake battle music is pretty good. Oh, no.
Okay, I know what I'm going to do here. I'm going to back out of the room because this game allows you to do that. And I'm just going to wait for my charge, and we're going to restart the fight. Yeah, if you don't get that first sword spin in, that fight becomes pretty difficult. So yeah, it's definitely worth kind of standing around out here for a little bit. Okay, let's try it again. So, how this fight should go. Spin here, get a lot of body shots. You can see you can get a lot of damage in on him.
Ah, nice.
And then the rest is kind of RNG, but you've kind of taken most of his health at this point. And you can just kind of stand here and block his shots as well. Okay, should die in a... Yep, there we go. Woo! Yeah, that's how easy it is.
Boom. It was kind of neat to get into the further into that remix battle music. It was pretty rocking.
Yeah, all the music in this game is really good. Like, just really good remixes.
Oh, yeah. Even the original music was really good on the Game Boy. There's so many Game Boy games, even though, you know, it's an old black and white system. Amazingly good music.
All right, so we're just going to forget about that Hydra fight and move on. So I'm going to pick up the battle axe. I'm going to need that a little bit later on. I'm going to equip it pretty soon, though. And then I'm going to buy as many Maddox as I can possibly get. So just one more stack here. And then I'm going to set up my menu here after this. Yeah, so I'm going to need to do that. Oops. Actually do that. And then I'm going to need the mirror and the axe. So we'll do that. One more time. Okay, now we're rocking. So now that I've got the magic mirror, I can head back to Ket Manor and rescue Fuji.
I like
and
how...
you don't actually have to use the magic mirror, you just have to have it equipped.
Oh. I like how all the remakes of the Mana series here, you've got the original soundtrack and the remade soundtrack, and they're both pretty good.
So there's that. I think that should disappear in my inventory. Okay. So there's usually one type of enemy I'm antagonizing in each area. Here's going to be those purple floating birds rather. Those are
like
called
an
blood
owl.
owls, and they drop crystals.
Ah, there.
Crystals are pretty handy. They do refill your stamina, which is necessary in at least one of the boss fights. It makes it go by super quick. But there's also a couple places where you're just going to need to stand by and wait for your stamina to fill. And yeah, save a little time with the insta-fill. I want to be avoiding these little rats. Poison is still very scary. Also kind of taking a little bit of a risk here. Oh, okay. Well, I gotta equip it now. I usually don't equip the fire spell because I don't like going in for the extra menu. But sometimes those zombies just cut you off at the pass. They just jump into the middle of a choke point, and you don't really have a choice. You got to deal with them. All right, so I'm gonna go down here. I think those spikes actually will kill me if I walk over them at this point. All right, 2 crystal drops is actually pretty good. Enemies seem like they're being pretty generous right now. All right, so new weapon, flail. Flail's use is going to be pretty much like the hook shot from Zelda. They're going to be these posts, and if you see a post, you can use the flail, grab it, and then fling yourself across a gap. It's also pretty good for combat. It does lock you down when you're using it, but you can hit like sometimes like 2 or 3 enemies.
And the range is so good.
Yeah, so here, pretty much just going to rescue Fuji, who is just a few screens away. And try to get as many of these enemies out of here as possible. If they're rats, I like to take them out so they don't turn into zombies on the return trip.
So rats turn into zombies?
So you'll have 2 types of enemies on any given screen.
Okay.
So you'll see here, there's blood owls and there's also pumpkins. And their assortment is randomized as you go onto it.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And I believe there is a max number of enemies in there as well. Oh, I didn't need to heal there. Yeah. Yeah, see, 2 of the enemies didn't spawn that time.
Okay.
But spawned in this time as a pumpkin and a blood owl. That gets a little annoying a little later in the run. That's not going to come until much later, though. For the most part, I don't have to worry about that too much. All right, so now that I have Fuji, I'm going to backtrack all the way to the beginning of this dungeon. And I'm going to leave a few screens of back off distance. Oops. Just so I can charge my stamina. Also, if I didn't mention it, stamina is charged by just not doing anything. As soon as you attack, it's all gone.
And every weapon type has its own like extra charge attack. And so the sword has that spin and it's got the dash. The sickle just has like an extra reach. And the flail is also just like an extra reach. Oh, and the axe. You get a throwing axe, which is pretty cool, but like actually the least useful.
Yeah, I usually try to get rid of the axe power hit before I need it. Because usually you're just using the axe to cut down trees.
The axe is always nerfed, and you know, it's always a shame.
All right, so Count Lee. I hate actually when he's close like that. I'm gonna start spinning early. Yeah, so spinning actually will deal damage over time to the bosses. Oh, that is not what I meant to do. See, this is gonna be kind of tricky. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just gonna spin a lot of his health down, and then actually got a lot of damage there. Usually takes 6 hits of the flail to kill him. Oh, yeah. So Count Lee is down, and I'm gonna need to swap to all my weaponry here. Because as mentioned before, all these weapons are also tools. And I'm gonna need all the tools to get through. So first up is gonna be the sickle. Gonna need the sickle to cut down some of these giant leaves.
So wait, in the Mana series, this is the first one, right?
Yes. So originally this game was called Seiken Densetsu Final Fantasy Gaiden.
That's right.
So that's why you'll still see all the like traditional Final Fantasy elements in this one.
Yeah.
With Secret of Mana on, they tried to build its own, make it its own series and build
Yeah.
up the lore.
So the Japanese name for the series, Seiken Densetsu, is like Legend of the Holy Sword. And so this is the first one. Secret of Mana is the second one. And the third one is now called Trials of Mana, but it wasn't originally released in English. So it was just called like Seiken Densetsu 3.
So here's one of the only breaks you get in the run. It's mostly action. I won't get another break for about another 45 minutes. So we bring Fuji to Sage Siba here, and she receives a vision from her mother. And in the middle of this vision, our mysterious friend from the Marsh Cave, which I guess I've already kind of revealed his identity, but he kind of pops into this room and says, "Hey, come with me."
He didn't seem suspicious at all from the start. I mean, it was a complete...
Yeah, just a random red mage wandering around this cave. So
With a
here's the big
mask.
reveal. You might recognize him from the intro. So he is Julius, the Dark Lord's attendant.
I mean, even when he reveals himself, he's still wearing a mask, so, you know.
All right, so every time Julius shows up, you'll notice that he does something very specific. And that is knock Sumo out anytime he gets the chance.
Poor Sumo.
So that's what happens there. He knocks him out with a fireball. Sumo wakes up back in the sanctuary, and now we are off to the abandoned mine. I want to be careful here. These dragonflies are kind of unpredictable. Okay, here we go. Now chop down some trees and chase after some crabs as well. And I'm looking for a specific drop from these crabs. Also, if you have any donations, it's a good time to fit some in here.
Sure. We don't currently have any donations, so if you guys have any, go ahead and send those on in. But I did want to highlight the Spider-Man 2 bit incentive coming up. That is going to be the run after this one. You can choose between the symbiote or the classic costume. Those are the two bid wars. I also wanted to highlight that even if you aren't seeing the donation totals go up, be aware that we are getting them in the system. We're just having a PayPal sync issue. And by the way, sorry, hi, I'm Scaly Star. I'm taking over for Fellow for the next couple of runs. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. So we got the oil. And did you get that drop from the crabs? What was that again?
It's called Bacchus wine, and it's actually going to come into play at the end of this dungeon here.
Okay.
It increases your strength by quite a bit.
Cool.
And yeah, they're really generous right now. Yeah, I got 2 Bacchus wine drops. I'm just getting literally everything I need. Okay, so casually, you'll probably wander up here first, but what you're meant to do is go down to that shop and get some oil, because right in the beginning of this next dungeon is going to be a minecart, and we need to set that in motion. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. That ought to disappear from my inventory, and I'll replace that with Maddox, because we need lots and lots of Maddox down here.
You gotta have a minecart scene.
Yeah, there's a couple of switches you gotta hit here, and I like to toss that out because that startup is very, very slow. Let's hit that one. Let's hit this one too. Oh, I missed it.
Oh.
Oh, it's so bad when you miss it. You go for a ride. You go for the full ride. It just wraps around back to the beginning.
It's probably easier to get it with a sickle, but then it would be like an extra equip and...
Yeah, the axe actually has a huge hitbox.
Okay.
And you're kind of just already on it. I rarely miss it. I actually missed it the other day. Just one of those oddities that occurs every now and then.
Particularly during marathons.
All right, so we get down to the bottom of the well and we meet our next partner, Watts. I will not be using his ask ability, but it is pretty cool. He opens up into like an entire store.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotta be careful with these tarantulas. Again, poison is still very, very dangerous. You have two types of tarantulas, and the rats can poison you down here. And I'm really surprised that I didn't get poisoned by the tarantulas on the tracks. Okay. Forbidden Mine is a fairly easy area. And you don't need any keys down here, so you can just unequip that. Save some for the next area. And the boss here just melts very quickly with Bacchus wine, as we'll see in a few minutes, or maybe even a few seconds. We'll see it in a few seconds. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get that ready, get my sword ready, and I'm gonna wait for my stamina to build up here. Use that, and we'll go in. So with the hitboxes like expanding and contracting, it makes the Mega Bead fight very, very difficult. Pretty much teetering on the edge of death this entire time. So I'm gonna go up here. And I'm gonna do that, and he's gonna disappear.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, if you don't get the Bacchus wine drop, that fight does get quite a bit longer. And he'll be circling around, and I think you can kill him in, 2 or 3 cycles if you get every flail hit in.
Oh, man. The Outer World music's just so beautiful.
Ooh. So this is a thing that can happen in this game. This game is so close to the original that even the enemies spawn in the same way. So when you enter a screen, there's no like back off distance. Like there's no safe zone, right? As soon as you walk into a screen, enemies can literally spawn right on top of you. So it kind of pays to keep your health high. A lot of the time I don't keep my health high. I just kind of go through to save the time.
But unlike the original, you get auto saves, which is
you get auto save on
pretty
every screen.
nice. Yeah, it makes it pretty friendly.
See, I think I need my crystal coming up here soon, so I'll just drop that on.
Thank you for the raid, Ocean Bagel.
Okay, so after I killed Megapede back there, I got the mithril. Oh, there was actually a crab up there. Funny how that worked out. Anyway, so Watts takes that mithril and he forms it into just mithril items. You get a suit of armor, you get a shield, you get a sword. In the speedrun, it just works out to get the sword. And it's a pretty big increase in strength, and it cuts through a lot of enemy weaknesses as well.
Yeah, the sword is like one of those weapons that like you get in the beginning, and then you end up having to use it like if you're playing casually, you kind of end up like switching back to it over and over through the whole game, just because it's kind of like, oh well, I know this weapon will hit them.
I guess I'll just avoid them for now. That's okay. I got to get rid of my charge here. So we meet Bogart on the other side. And we find out that Fuji has been taken to the Emperor's airship. Or Dark Lord's airship. And that's going to be the next destination. And you want to get used to this scene right here. Just attacking werewolves with an axe. That's going to be happening quite a bit coming up.
So one of the touches that's in this one that wasn't in the original is the character profiles when you're talking, which is pretty neat. I thought Siba's beard was particularly magnificent.
Okay, so I'm gonna pop on a mithril helm here, and I'm gonna buy more Maddox. You'll notice that I'm constantly loading myself up with Maddox. There is a reason for that. Yeah, most of the first half of the game, you're constantly buying Maddox, just more and more and more, and there is a payoff. You will unload quite a bit of those. Right now, I'm just gonna try to stay alive because, as you've seen, for most of this run, you're like 1 or 2 hits away from death.
So I noticed every time you level up, you make a choice between power and stamina, and I think actually, no, it used to, in the original one, they called it like power, stamina, will, and wisdom, but in the remake, they call it like fighter, monk, sage or something.
Yeah, so it's warrior, monk, a mage, and sage here.
Okay. And you pick warrior every time?
Yes. So the leveling. With warrior, your strength grows 2 to 1 with your defense, and then monk is just the opposite. And it's kind of the same thing for the magic classes. Mage makes your intelligence grow 2 to 1 with your... I can't think of it right now. The other stat, the magical defense stat. And then sage is the opposite. We're all about power in the speedrun, so you want more and more strength.
Yeah. So if you're playing casually, you probably want to pick some of the other ones.
And just there's another application to sword spinning. So oh, lovely.
Oh, there's those enemies popping up right in front of you again.
It shrinks Sumo's hitbox, so you can traverse some of the more dangerous screens with relative ease. Also helps on some of the boss encounters. Except for the ones where height is taken into account, which Count Lee is one of those. Count Lee can actually snipe you when he lands on top of you. He can swipe, and that will hit Sumo like right on his head. He's very precise. All right, I'm just not even gonna bother with that. And I'm gonna drop some keys off and kind of rescue Fuji here.
So there are some TASs in the original version, and there's actually 2 different categories because there's a major glitch right about this point that lets you teleport. But can you do anything like that in this version?
There is some wackiness, nothing like teleporting.
Okay.
But it is pretty interesting. It doesn't have widespread application, but it's kind of enough to make the speed run a bit more interesting.
Okay.
And yeah, that'll be happening on the second half. Found no application for it, at least not yet. No one's found any application for it on the first half of the game.
Okay.
I will say it involves a chocobo.
Do we want to have another
For the
pass
most
at
part.
donations while we're sort of going through the airship here?
Sure, we're still waiting on some of those to roll in. I do want to say we are close to hitting the $1,000 mark. We're currently sitting at 890, so let's see if we can do that push. Let's see if we can get a $5 donation train started, guys.
Ooh, that's a great idea. I'm starting to see some more donations coming in on our page, but there's a delay, and sometimes the PayPal processing has been sort of iffy. So even if we don't see your donation show up right away, we're still going to get it. We'll get it for sure from this PayPal donation spot. There's those wolves with the axe, huh?
Yeah, so you kind of gain a lot of levels off this. This just happens to be like the perfect spot where you can just kill a bunch of werewolves and gain levels very, very quickly. So you almost make up for like all the levels that you've missed thus far. So I'm just gonna rinse repeat here until I'm at level 20. So if there are any more donations, yeah, it's a great time here for sure.
Do we have a little blurb about our benefit here?
Absolutely, I can give you guys some information. So, TASGiving 2021 benefits NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. NAMI is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for the millions of Americans affected by mental illness. Reports indicate that people are increasingly impacted by mental health conditions. 1 in 5 live with a mental health condition, so chances are you or someone you know is affected. NAMI needs your help to continue to expand their reach and help the people who need them most. You can learn more about NAMI at nami.org. That's NAMI.org. And you can donate at donate.tasgiving.org. Thank you guys so much.
All right, almost done here. Be just a few more trips. Oh, bottom guy escaped. Okay, here we go. Yeah, you have to go into that room and kind of position just right. Specifically so you can get the top and the bottom wolves. A lot of the time they tend to escape. So as I'm walking over into that screen, I'm just kind of mashing the attack button. And then Julie shows up. And when he shows up, he blasts Sumo away and, well, Sumo's taking another fall. And then meet Amanda from the beginning of the game. You probably didn't see her because I just walked straight by her. But she was locked up in the castle alongside Sumo.
You know, that tends to happen in the RPGs, and it's always the girl.
Oh. Yeah, this part is a little dangerous. Okay. Oh, there are a lot of enemies out here. So now I'm going to grab a very special friend at the end of this area. And that friend's gonna come in very handy in the second half. Also kind of useful here. You see this curious giant egg across the river, and it just instantly hatches into a full-grown chocobo.
So convenient. Aww.
All right, and so Chocobo's ask ability is simply just to ride her around. While you're on the Chocobo, you can't get damaged by any enemies, so you can just kind of push them out of the way. It's like this. And interesting thing is that you in the original game, you can actually skip over the Chocobo. In this version, they force you to get her. And you can just walk off right into the next section in the original. Where here they put a little gap in a bridge that leads over into the desert. And it's a gap that only the Chocobo can jump. And so out here is actually a pretty interesting area. You're meant to go up into the next town first, and there's a kid up there that gives you a little side quest. And you have to go out and kill a bunch of enemies in the desert and get a rare drop. And then when you give that item to him, he tells you about making a figure 8 around these trees. You can just skip through all that and just make the figure 8, and we're all good. Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot of enemies here. I'm gonna try to get level 21. Not sure if it's gonna work out. Actually don't know where I'm sitting on XP, but getting level 21 is optimal here for sure. Just gonna try to scrape up as many enemies as I possibly can and stay away from the Shadow Zeros. Yeah, so the Shadow Zeros are worth the most XP here. They're like 45 XP, which is definitely big money. But they're very scary. They change direction very quickly, and they can also go underground. So you just really don't want to mess with them if you don't have to. Oh, okay. That was happening earlier. These snapdragons are very aggressive and will come straight at you, even if you're in a doorway. You can see by my 7 health that that is certainly not something I want to happen here. All right, so now you get the Blizzard spell. I'm actually going to pop my sword back on and then swap that out. And so for a pretty good portion of the run, pretty much up until the second half, you're more or less just going to be rotating out an item from one slot. Sometimes I end up on slot 2, sometimes I end up on slot 3. It really doesn't matter. Oh man, they are just really coming for me right now.
Wow. Enemies appearing in doorways, picking the
Okay, I maybe just want to heal now.
yeah. Building yourself as a glass cannon, not picking up any armor, and enemies appear in doors. I mean, you know. Sounds like a recipe for a speed run.
I do have that mithril helmet, and I made the classic mistake that I always do, and I forgot to equip it. But it helps a little bit. It doesn't help all that much. Sometimes it could save you from death, though. It's getting some bad luck right now. Okay. Oh, this room's empty. That's definitely nice after that last round. Okay, so here, they give you sort of a tutorial room where you just have this snowman just randomly hanging out in the desert. Push it over to the switch, opens the door.
So you don't need ice for that.
Yeah, and now the next room is kind of a you try thing. So you just use the blizzard, you freeze a spider, and then, well, turns into a snowman. Now it's hanging out in the desert, so why don't you just go ahead and push it over on that switch?
So if you don't get the ice spell, you can't get through there.
Okay, and we are approaching the next boss fight. Okay, got my level 21 here. Medusa is actually pretty easy. You can really just run into the room and your stamina will regen before you really need to attack her. Pretty cut and dried here. So you just walk in. Usually she backs up to the wall like that. And I'm just gonna wait until she does that. Kind of spin behind her. Hang out right here and try to stay behind her. She will turn around and grab you. Which is why you don't want to go in earlier. All right, so as far as the plot is concerned here, Amanda's brother is being held in the next town up. He's been turned into a parrot. So we came down here to break the curse and get a tear from Medusa. Unfortunately, Medusa doesn't cry. She did bite Amanda, and Amanda was turning into a Gorgon. And she did shed a tear for her brother. Unfortunately, Amanda did not survive. So we'll carry her memory forward.
I could tell that you hesitated, and because it was such an emotional event there, before instantly.
Yeah, you actually have to attack her. There, by the way.
She didn't survive because, but she tells you to. It's all right.
Yeah. She died of natural causes.
Yeah, it's a 1-to-1 remake.
Attacked her.
And life always wasn't easy back in the 90s.
So, here is her brother, Lester.
Now he has a cool ask.
Yeah, he probably has the most neat ask ability in the game.
We've got to show it off at least once here.
Yeah, it has no bearing on the gameplay at all.
No.
Oops. But you
He's
can
a
change the
bard.
music.
Yeah.
And it actually landed on a really good song.
Very cool, yeah. I mean, he's a bard in a game with amazing music, so he's going to be awesome.
So I want to antagonize these kind of purple Spiral the Dragon looking enemies here. They will drop crystals as well. Not as often as the Blood Owls. But often enough to make it worth it. Oh, just like that, actually. And I can use them in a few places a little bit later on in the game. You can also only attack them from the back, so it gets scary sometimes. Okay, yeah, I want to spin here. These mages, they pack a punch, as does that little barrier in the middle. Yeah, not too much to say about Davius's mansion. It's pretty easy to get lost here. There's some circuits that you can get on that'll just lead to nowhere. Actually almost at the end.
So I think this one, there's another weapon in this dungeon, but you don't need to pick it up, so you can kind of just skip it in this case.
Yeah, and that's going to happen actually a few times in this run. You're just going to straight up skip over some weapons.
Like, now that you've got an axe, you don't need another axe, because that axe just chops trees just fine.
It's been so long since I've been out into the rest of this dungeon. I forgot that the were-axe was even there. All right, so I actually do want to have my crystal equipped here. And talk about music. We're not going to hear too much of it here, but the song is excellent. Oh, I mistimed that like I thought I would. So ideally, Davius just takes 3 sword dashes. And you want to use the crystal here to recover your stamina. And also get a few iframes, which I haven't talked about that just yet. Give me a second here if you would. Just gonna let my stamina regen. Avoiding all his nuke spells. Sword dash on him now. And he should go down here. Yep, there he goes. The music cuts out like that sometimes in this game. I don't know why. But speaking of that, you probably noticed that this town had no music at all. Yeah, and now that we've rescued Lester from Davius, he's playing his harp, and now the town is filled with music.
Oh. I think it's supposed to be a requiem.
Yes, I believe so, for his sister. So defeating Davius opens up the next area of the game. Previously, there was like a miasma that was in that area, and every time you would pass it, it would just push you back. But now we are all free to go.
You pass out because it knocks you out, but then conveniently you wake up unharmed just outside the range of the miasma.
Okay, and then you actually leave your chocobo behind here, and for me, this actually is coming up on kind of the most nerve-wracking stretch of the game. It's very easy to die through these areas. Oh, okay, just like that, with a double KO. Okay, let's try that again. Yeah, this is a room I tend to kind of shuffle through the axe to get through it, and the sword just to poke those purple clouds. Specifically for them. Okay, did I get a good eyeball pattern? I did. All right, so it's meme time with the giant enemy crab. What I want to do is restart the fight because I have the axe on. I'm going to stand here. Hello. Hello again. It's me. Okay, so I want to go into the room spinning like this, and... Okay, that's not what I want to see.
Oh no.
Yeah, so what I want to do is go in spinning and then move up into the upper right corner and attempt to bait out an attack from the left claw.
Those autosaves, we're getting some use out of those
that's
autosaves.
what I want to see there. Then move back down, and then you can actually reach him out here. Okay, just like that.
All right.
Yeah, so when he attacks with his left claw, he does that ground pound. That means he will stay in place, and then a few seconds later, there'll be a follow-up with the right claw, and he'll try to grab you. If he does attack with the right claw first, then he'll move off. That's always a cue for when he's gonna move and change positions.
So I think we've got some dungeon crawling here. Maybe we can get some more donations?
Absolutely. I just wanted to highlight that we did hit 1K and we blew past it a little bit. We just hit 1.2. So keep those donations coming on in, guys. We have a $25 donation from none other than TheAxeMan that says, "Thanks for joining us tonight, Troll." We have $25 from Vandalite that says, "Here's to seeing that Mega Man 2 glitch exhibition." I'm really excited about that one. We also have a $10 donation from Orc Dad Devin. "With love from your fam in San Antonio, Texas. Shout out to the amazing team who got this event together. I can't wait to see more crazy task runs, randos, and speed runs by both cool and loving people. Strawberries and pineapple on pizza."
Very nice.
And just a quick shout out to the whole volunteer team that's put this event together. They've been working tirelessly through this whole event to get everything set up, and They do all the work behind the scenes to make this event as great as it can be.
Thank you again. Yeah, this was, and thanks to all the generous donors. We have a few donation incentives. So when you make your donation, you can go ahead and go down to the part where it says incentives and pick out these things like naming the characters in the upcoming runs, or filling out some of these incentives like the Mega Man 2 glitch exhibition, or this other one that we just called because it's in Final Fantasy X. And if you've played Final Fantasy X, you know what we're talking about when we laugh somewhat ironically. Now this game is not Final Fantasy. Well, I guess this game is not called Final Fantasy anymore. It's called Adventures of Mana.
Yeah, originally it was Final Fantasy Adventure. Yeah, it is a neat little tidbit if you didn't know that the Mana series actually was just originally a spin-off of Final Fantasy.
It's got a chocobo. That's good enough, right?
Hey, level 23 is where I want to be. So there was mention of skipping weapons, and this is like one of the major skips in the game.
Oh, awesome.
But first I'm counting. 2, gonna run. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Gotta get out of there. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, double laser, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. Okay. So this is the reason why we need so many Maddox.
So every time you swung one of those Maddox, that was a consumable item that you had to have gotten before. I mean, I guess you can. What, each of them gives you 7?
Yeah, each stack is 7.
Okay. And so how many hits was that?
What was that? 37?
37. Okay, so you needed to get like 7 whole, and you've been using those Maddox the whole time to like break down the hidden passages in the dungeon, or like sometimes just break through like a rock or something in your way. So it's not just for that, you know. So that's a lot of Maddox.
Yeah, so that dungeon, Crooked Boulder, it's like a Zelda Lost Woods type situation. It's a dungeon that loops over and over and over if you go the wrong way. And what's meant to happen there is you're meant to find your way to the other side, and there's a boss called the Cyclops that gives you basically the weapon version of a Madoc that you're intended to use pretty much for the rest of the game. It was discovered that you can just attack the Golem boss, which is sort of the final boss of that dungeon, with Maddox and kill him. So there was no reason to go to the other side. You can just carry Maddox stacks to the rest of the game. And it used to be that you needed a lot more for the second half, or else you would end up with a soft lock. But there's some skips now where you don't need quite as many.
So for those not familiar, well, we actually skipped a weapon called the Morning Star that lets you just attack. Your attack has the same effect of like breaking down walls, and actually you need it to attack that boss too. But since Troll just had all these Maddox, he was able to skip getting this weapon that you have to kind of like go through. You have to go through the side path of the dungeon, and then you've got to beat another boss to get the Morning Star, and then all of a sudden, now you don't.
Yeah, and Madocks are also used for like good additional damage for bosses, like this one here. This is actually a very tricky boss fight. Use some of those iframes there. As I'm doing these sword dashes, I need to hit him on the front and the back. Running a little zigzag pattern, get a little damage on him there. Oops. Hit me there. He's gonna throw out these nuke spells. I'm gonna run around for 3 of them. Zigzag on him. That allows me to get a little bit closer to him and hit him with the Madoc for the full damage. I've got to do that before that last nuke spell hits the ground, or else he'll just go back into the 4 nuke spells.
That's kind of interesting because you have not picked up a new weapon in quite a while now.
Okay, there he goes. And the AngelWind is really for that fight. It reduces that by a couple cycles. And there's a few runners of this game that have a couple different approaches to that. One of them is really interesting, and it uses kind of the flail.
Oh, cool.
So you can put on the mithril helmet and sort of position yourself to where those nuke spells will hit you directly on the head and won't deal out any damage. The flail is kind of a weak weapon, so you need the AngelWind boost to really make that effective. Yeah, so how it works is Chimera's back half is a little bit lower. It's still airborne, but it's a little bit lower than the front half. And the flail, kind of the startup frames on its attack animation are airborne, so you can just kind of stand under him, not take any damage, and then just keep doling out damage to him.
And there are the black mages. So it is Final Fantasy after all, right?
Yeah, those black mages are a tad tricky. At least the ones that that disappear. I might be dead. Maybe not. Okay, I'm not dead. All right, let's get out of there. I'm just gonna drop all my keys here again. Bada bing, bada boom. We're all set up. Okay. Anywho, we're back in Castle Glaive again. This is the Dark Lord's castle where Sumo was prisoner in the beginning. But we've come back to take him on. Quite a bit stronger now. And you actually pick up a really important weapon here. One that comes in very handy in the back half. There's also a room here where you're pretty much at the total mercy of RNG, which doesn't happen very often in this game. So the only things that are really RNG are some of the boss patterns and the enemies spawning into the rooms, and that's what's really going to be the kicker for this particular room that I'm talking about. But before that, I'm gonna go pick up a new weapon, and I want to get a good spin on these enemies that are kind of like Dark Nuts from Zelda. You can only attack them from the back. I'll take it. Yeah, so these enemies are still really dangerous. They have a fairly long reach.
Wow.
Gaining a level definitely helps here. All right. Okay, read the needle, and we're good. Okay, so the blood sword, it is a sword that gives you life as you attack. Comes in very handy. Let's go ahead and do that. Pop in that blizzard spell. I'll need that in a bit. Yeah, so now you don't have to rely on Fuji, and once he's gone, you can have a reliable means to just cure yourself without menuing. Kind of nice. Oh, Shadow Zeros, just all of them, just all the Shadow Zeros in that room. All right, so this room, I need 2 of those knights to spawn, and you can't see everything when you first walk into the room, so you'll lose a little bit of time. You have to go in and kind of check. You can freeze the knights, but you cannot freeze the mages, unfortunately. So this room, I wouldn't say it would make or break your run. It can lose you quite a bit of time, though. I'm just gonna do that, I guess. Yeah, so just like in Shifting Sands, the desert dungeon, you have to freeze these enemies and push them onto the switches. And I really don't like him walking along the wall like that. Oh, okay. Come over straight to the switch for me. That works.
Because of course you can't pull.
Yeah, you can pull in this game. You can only push. The good thing is you can keep your Blizzard spell out there indefinitely and just reposition it, as long as you don't get hit.
The healing factor on that blood sword is really nice, huh? Although it's probably based on...
It's definitely great.
It's probably based on your attack, which is like really high since you've got this glass cannon build.
Yeah. And yeah, it's going to come into play here. Shroud. Okay, you got my spin. He has a lot of like iframe trickery, just like that. Pretty much iframes on almost every attack. So you almost need the blood sword to fight him here, because if he wants to run you over, he will. He's really fast, and actually, just over the past couple of days, to start up that spin, I've moved quite a bit further away from him than I usually do, because he attacks pretty fast. Like, he has pretty much the same attack speed as Sumo, and so he'll poke you out of your spin. Like, he just doesn't care.
Yeah, there's definitely like a hint that he's sort of like a dark version of you, you know? All right, everyone ready for the, everyone remember the spell? Klinka Imra Miriam Tingqua. So every time you go to a waterfall, just say that, and the waterfall reverses. I'll try that next time I get a chance to go out to Yosemite or something.
I think it may only work with magic waterfalls. I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, okay. You've got to be...
It's worth a shot, though.
Yeah, it's got to be a magic waterfall, and you have to be some sort of, like, magic maiden of some sort. You have to be related to a tree. A magic tree.
Right, so as far as the plot here, Dark Lord was defeated. It would seem that that would be it, right? But his attendant comes out, Julius, and reveals himself as the true villain, and gets Fuji to open the way to the Mana Temple, and that's where we'll see them at the end of the game. The real hero of the tale was Bogard up until this point. He was one of the Gemma Knights that fought against the Vandal Empire and kind of the backstory of this game. At this point, Bogard has broken his leg, and he's just unable to go on. And so Sumo and Bogard have a little conversation. that you can actually skip, and I will be skipping. That he sort of passes the mantle of the hero down to Sumo, and he has to carry out the rest of this mission. I'll grab one more stack of Maddox for just for posterity.
Why not? You can never have too many Maddox.
Also the Chocobo. So she was out in the desert looking around for Sumo for quite a long time and lost use of her legs. Luckily, the professor here is gonna fix that. So instead of just having a regular Chocobo, now we have a Chocobo with robot legs. So at this point, you actually can go back in and talk to Bogart and have that conversation. But if you just walk out of the town, it takes a second to load. But now
We've got no time for the old
you'll
man.
notice that Sumo has Bogart's cape at this point. Oh, and the overall music changes for the second half.
That is a nice touch. Switching out his cape. Wow.
All right, and so the property of the robot legs is that now the Chocobo can ski. And this game started the tradition of mana games kind of opening up in the back part of the game. You can go pretty much wherever you want to. There is a particular order we want to go in at this point. It just kind of really works out with these skips that have been found. All right, so in some places you can't dismount your Chocobo. You'll just get a message saying that you can't do that. If you knock an object off the map and stay on that same screen, for some reason it just kind of disables that message. And if you pair that off with being near like a riverbed or a tall cliff, you end up being able to walk underneath the map.
That's pretty nice.
And also, as it turns out, if you just mount the Chocobo and dismount the Chocobo, you can come up from far underneath the map and resurface. And that's how this skip was found. Or at least this part up to Ice Cave specifically. So I actually found the initial skip, just like being able to walk off into the water and under the map. And once I released that out, our Japanese runners kind of applied it to, tried to find wherever you can possibly apply it to, and found a few more skips. And it really, really kind of opened up the back half of this run. It's kind of like the perfect sort of skip for this game.
Mecha
All right.
Chocobo.
Yeah, so Ice Caves. Ice Caves is sort of a make or break split. It can be really, really mean if it wants to. There's a lot of times where you're maybe forced to use your charge and have to sit there and wait. But mostly it's mean because there's a lot of enemies in here that you just cannot kill. There is a weapon that you can get called the Flame Flail. And I actually think you might be able to damage them with the Flame Spell, but since you have basically no intelligence, it's not going to do much. So the Flame Flail would be your option. But you have to go so far out of the way to get that. It's just not practical. So yeah, it makes this segment one of the hardest in the game, if it wants to be. You also have to go on these ice flows, and you can have enemies that kind of spawn underneath these archways and can damage you on the way out of a screen. If you listen closely, you can actually hear them sliding around in the ice, but it may be too late. Oh, yeah.
Like that guy. Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, sometimes they can just jump onto the ice flows. And it's kind of hard to like turn and attack them once they do that. Also, the enemies in here do a lot of damage. I'm just gonna go ahead and take the safety there. Some of these enemies that you can damage normally, you can kind of shove out of your way with a Maddock if you want to. I don't like using too many. If you have to use like 3 or 4 to actually kill them. Oh, hello.
Oh, no.
Okay. That's fine. Maybe there'll be a beholder that'll spawn here. Just like that. And I can get all my health back. Easy peasy. Yeah, see, I was forced to use my charge there, more or less. And yeah, you just lose a couple seconds.
So you have to use the charge to
yeah,
get
it's
the...
really either way. You can menu in and get a crystal and probably still lose the same amount of time.
Ah.
Mistimed that. Oh, got the second one though.
This might not be a bad time for some more donations if we got them.
Sure. I just wanted to bring up that we do have a Discord available for TASGiving if you would like to join for some cute behind the scenes pictures of TASBot. They're really, really cute. You can join that at discord.gg/TASGiving. That's TASGIVING. Your financial contribution to NAMI helps create a world where all people affected by mental illness can experience hope, recovery, wellness, and freedom from stigma. NAMI's funding comes from a variety of sources. A majority comes from individual donors and contributors, which is why events like these and your donations are so important, no matter the dollar amount, whether it's $1, $5, $10, whatever you can help, it really adds up. You can learn more about NAMI at NAMI.org and donate at donate.tasgiving.org.
Thank you. So the cute pictures of TASBot, a lot of them were taken at, here in America we had Thanksgiving, and it's sort of a harvest festival feast. And one of the things you do if you're having a fancy dinner like this, you have a little centerpiece. And this is that year that TASBot was the centerpiece for my Thanksgiving dinner, which I guess kind of makes it TASGiving dinner. But yeah, that was our Thanksgiving dinner this year. We had our little on-site crew here all got together at my place, and we had our TASGiving dinner. It was a lot of fun. I think we're getting close to the end of this dungeon. Not only is it rough, but it's long.
Yeah, and so this is another boss fight where the blood sword is really, really handy. In fact, it really just makes this boss fight work. So I'm going to go over and sword dash her, and after that, I'm just going to use single slashes to take her out. So she's going to freeze. I'm going to position myself to where I'm directly in front of her. She's going to attack. I'm going to move forward, and she's going to throw out another blizzard spell. And we're just going to repeat this process.
Nice.
And you get the Ice Brand, more powerful sword. You don't use it too much. There are actually a few bosses that are just completely immune to it. Also, a nice little byproduct of that skip to get up to ice caves. You're not supposed to be able to have the chocobo up in this colder region. You'll see
That's
a message in a minute. If you enter this area normally, you're forced to dismount. Yeah, and so that triggers as soon as you step on that. Alright, so those skips actually cut out quite a bit of overworld transversal. Oops. Actually thought I had the axe equipped there. So what you used to do here is get the key from Seba over here in Lorm. And then you would sail all the way around this continent, find a river, and then sail all the way down that river to get to the next section, which took a few minutes. But now you can just walk straight to the other area.
And if you came here before, these doors would be frozen, and you wouldn't be able to get to Siva and see his cool beard. So in the original version, the chocobo didn't so much like ski on the water; it's just walk on it. I mean, it was the exact same animation. It was just like on the water.
Yeah, so with these skips, you can say in a way like we're paying homage to the original game. Well, you don't see it now, but you will see it. The chocobo actually, once she's in the glitch state, she doesn't go into the ski animation and just continues to walk. So yeah, that's a couple minute skip because normally you have to find your way around to this river.
Yeah, I mean, you just like went all the way around the world, or well, you'd have to normally go all the way around the world to find like because you can only get off the chocobo on these like certain dock spots, which there's only a few of them.
Yeah, when you're coming back from skiing. But why do that when you could just walk through a wall? Yeah, and you used to have to load up your inventory pretty well with Maddox. Because coming into this area without the Morning Star
Yeah.
kind of just meant if you run out of Maddox, then you're gonna soft lock yourself here.
Yeah, you would normally have a weapon that has the sort of the same like clearing ability as the Maddox, but
I just want to clear these enemies out here. The skip is a little touchy. I just don't want to get knocked out of it. You almost have to be in like the exact place as the object you're sort of replacing here. Just want to go down. Okay, there we go. This skip is actually a tad scary because if you go too far, you can pop out of the other side of the continent.
oh.
And you can't really tell what your screen position is underneath the map. Yeah, so you see, if I had moved left there, or right, rather, I would have popped out and had to go all the way back around normally. It does cost you a couple minutes, so it pays to be careful there. And
So
now
what are
I'm
you
just gonna
buying
stack
here?
up on some thunderbolts,
Oh, cool.
which we'll get to that in a second. So there's another kind of, we'll say, minor glitch. It does involve the next mini boss I'm going to be fighting. If I pull it off, we'll see him die very quickly. It is kind of tricky to hit, just with kind of the way the hitboxes shift. Sometimes the spell just doesn't do the full damage for whatever reason. All right, it's just a few screens up here, and I actually need to pop on some thunderbolts pretty quickly here. Should probably do it before I forget. There we go. Yeah, so Underground River is really just like a mini section that leads into the real dungeon right after this boss. So I like to try to stand off to his right a little bit. I found that to be the most consistent for me. Oh, that can also happen too. So the whole time you're trying to do this quick kill, you're standing more or less in the danger zone. So what he will do is just raise his tentacles up and try to attack towards the center. And those tentacles have a ginormous hitbox. And they kind of linger there for a bit too. So if one comes down on top of you, you're almost certainly dead. Oh, I might get it this time. Okay, there we go.
Nice. Oh, wow.
I haven't gotten that first try in a while, and that feels really good.
Luckily, the bridge didn't fall behind you this time.
Yeah, so you can see, like, with the Thunderbolt, there's kind of an initial hit, and then there's, like, the secondary hit. Sometimes that secondary hit doesn't go off the first time you throw that Thunderbolt at him, and I don't know. I imagine it's because his hitbox is shifting, and I just cannot see it. But, yeah. It's kind of hard to break down this game, so who knows what's really going on underneath the surface. That is not what I meant to do. Let's go ahead and put that on, and then put on the scythe, or the sickle rather. And kind of an odd thing, the sickle just comes back into play.
Oh, all of a sudden, we need the sickle again. Hope you didn't forget.
Okay, and this is another one of those rooms, and I'll need 2 knights here as well. So I'll just have to keep resetting the room. And I'm getting mages. Getting 1 knight. Okay, 2 knights. Here we go.
And it's also another thing, you've got to, like, if you don't know the mechanics real well, and you kill some of the enemies, then it can be bad, because now you've got to wait for, actually, in order to respawn the enemies, you have to, move so many screens away and then come back.
Yeah, so here it's also like pretty easy. Since the entrance to the dungeon is pretty close, you can just run out and reset it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, after a certain amount of screens, the enemies will respawn. That is if you've killed them all.
But
Okay,
you know,
that was kind of scary.
if you didn't have the mechanics down, you might think, oh, if I kill the mage, then then come back, then there'll be there'll be fighters. But no, if you kill the mage, then you've killed one enemy slot that's respawning, and now there's not enough enemies.
Yeah, very tricky. There's one more room like that. Fortunately for that one, you only need 2 enemies of any type to spawn. Alright, kind of coming up on the end of this one. This dungeon actually has a fairly easy boss, and it's the only one where you'll use the ice brand. So he actually is weak to it.
I like how the
There.
recovery from the blood sword, you're using that health to get some skips over the lava.
Yeah, you can recover from it. Lava does a lot of damage. You also get. Okay, I guess we've got to see it once.
And there's in order to be a Final Fantasy spinoff, you gotta have Moogles, right?
Gonna go ahead and force my level there so I can get some more MP.
But so the rest of the mana games, I don't think there's chocobos in any of the other ones. Maybe some of them, but
No,
the
from Secret of Mana on, they kind of established its own lore. So
but they
everything
kept
is
Moogles
sort of
in.
just the mana spirits from there on out.
They kept Moogles though.
Yes, they did keep the Moogles.
Moogles are they're just too cute.
Okay, I want to set up with the Ice Brand here. Boom, boom. And now we'll fight Ifrit. There's also a secret chocobo in Sword of Mana, which actually I haven't talked about yet. Yeah, Sword of Mana is like the attempt to bring the series lore that came after this game into it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's like mana spirits for pretty much everything. There is a kind of Easter egg chocobo though.
That looked pretty clean.
Yeah, so Ifrit, there's really not too much going on there. You just spin. After you spin, you just hit him a couple times so he doesn't take an action as he's moving, because he can actually turn into a giant spear of lava and give you a lot of problems. Okay, this skip's kind of tricky sometimes. Usually I have to end up resetting this one once, at least. Oops. Actually, did I pick up another ether? I'm just gonna be safe here, and I'm just gonna buy an ether. Otherwise, if I make it to a certain point and I don't have enough MP, I have to go pretty far out of my way. So let's just go ahead and nip that in the butt. And then get this. There we go. So it really works out that you can just kind of skip, kind of clip off the cliff there, and then run a couple screens over, and conveniently you're at the next location.
That is a pretty convenient trick, yeah.
Yeah, it's super nice. You just go to the desert island, which again, you can go to at any point. It just kind of works out. With that, and you're just quite a bit stronger here as well. So the boss fight, which there's only a boss fight here, goes a little bit faster.
So you could have come to this dungeon earlier.
Yeah, you can come here way earlier if you wanted to. Let's go ahead and switch off to the blood sword because he's just completely immune to the ice brand. He's kind of tricky. So he moves in a figure 8 pattern, kind of like the original, but sometimes he warps out, and I'm not exactly sure what causes that. Okay, and oh yeah, that's the attack I wanted to avoid there. So I did mention that you're in iframes the whole way through your sword dash. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. So he just wanted to spawn right on top of me there. Oh, and then hit me when I'm down. At any rate, when he throws out those blue skulls, those will just get eaten up by your iframes. When he throws out the red skull, those will actually still hit you and confuse you and reverse your controls. For whatever reason, the status ailment just gets applied. And that's scary. I don't know which way he teleports. As you can see, yeah, he can just end up right on top of you. Okay, he's being kind of mean right now.
This is a pretty brutal fight. Like, even if you've, like, really powered up high, he can still get you in, like, 1 or 2 shots.
Okay, let's try it again. Yeah, so we can also go to the center and have a scythe spinning around there as well. And you have to look out for the sneak attack because that one will actually toss a skull out there as well. Okay, that was actually good. I'm not sure if I got the second hit there. Oh, okay. What a whiff there. So because he's like up near the edge, he's kind of like Davius. Getting that first hit on Davius can sometimes only net you a little bit of damage because he's still in iframes as Sumo is coming back from the sword dash. Yep. Okay, we should get him here. Here we go.
Woohoo!
Yeah, you also don't want to spin, obviously, with him teleporting out like that. It's really unpredictable. So the whole reason you go to this island in the first place to fight him is to get the flare spell. And now I will just use that to kind of open up the way to the rest of the game. And one of the more nerve-wracking boss fights, it's just one of those fights where you can practice over and over and over, and it still just not end up the way that you need it to. Certainly one of the toughest in the game, and you'll see why when I get there. But Buried Ruins is pretty straightforward. So if you have any donations you wanted to get in, certainly a good time here.
That's right.
Sure. So I just wanted to highlight once again that bid incentive we have coming up for Spider-Man 2. That run is right after this one, so make sure you get those bids in now. The choices are the Symbiote, which is black and silver, or the classic red and blue. Symbiote is ahead with 76. None towards the classic red and blue yet, so if you do want to see that classic costume, make sure to get those donations in at donations.TASGiving.org.
So these freaky ruins have us. There's electrical. You get damaged on those electrical things, right? It's sort of like spikes, but electrified.
Yeah, just like to shortcut that room there. Just take a damage boost, get a few iframes, and take a lot less damage than you would by crossing over the barrier.
Ah.
Oh, these ducks just didn't want me to pass. And I'm on full health here, so I just hold out menuing here until the last minute.
Now I'm trying to remember,
Okay.
does the damage from spikes scale with your HP or level or something?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh, the damage from the spikes. Does it scale with your HP or your level or something like that?
Not entirely sure, but I believe that is the case, though.
Okay.
Okay, so Mantis Ant. You need to take a whole lot of damage coming in here, and he takes up a large portion of this arena.
It looks a
and
lot
he
harder.
almost never does exactly what you want him to do.
It looks a lot harder than the Mantis Ant from, you know, the first fight in Secret of Mana.
It is quite a bit harder than that. Oh god, I might die. Okay. Hopefully I don't. He's gonna send the projectiles at me. Okay, he got me.
Oh no.
There are certain situations that he can get you into where you're more or less just dead to rights.
So, what is the world record for this category if everything lines up?
I'm not sure. There actually isn't a leaderboard for this on speedrun.com.
Oh,
And as far as I know, there are only 4 runners.
oh.
There are 2 Japanese runners, one of which is, I believe, is in the chat at the moment.
Oh, cool.
And just on the English side, it's me and Bowie the hero. But I believe the world record is somewhere around 155 or 56.
Okay.
It was 158 until those skips were discovered
Oh,
and
nice.
finally applied to a run.
And is this version the main one for speedrunning? Or, because I know there's some other versions that this remake was on.
There is the Android version. It's pretty much the same though.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So he's just gonna go side to side like that. Yeah, the Vita version started out quite a bit slower, where the loading would take quite a bit longer. And I believe the screen transitions were pretty slow as well. But after a patch, they're more or less the same. Okay, so for this fight, it's kind of easy to manipulate him more or less into doing what you want in the beginning, but after that, it's almost a gamble. I like to stand diagonally away from him like this. I'm just gonna be safe here and wait for him to do that. He's gonna jump. I'm gonna spin. Okay, I should finish him off here. He's another one of those bosses that can kind of snipe sumo out of the spin because his sides are airborne.
You're just gonna skip the chest?
Yeah, there is a higher level sickle in there, but you really don't need it with the Dragon Buster. The Dragon Buster is the sword that I picked up. It's the second strongest weapon in the game. Yeah, so you just kind of forge forward from here.
So now we're getting to TASBot's favorite part. Because TASBot, you know, we know that TASBot likes to check out other robots. And there is, you know, TASBot is not monogamous by any extent. You know, he's been linked to the GDQ tracker bot and various other ones. And, you know, every time he sees another robot like Marcy here, TASBot's just getting some hearts in his eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, so Marcy is actually I would say the best partner in the game. Her ask ability is to completely replenish your MP.
Yeah, so you can just go wild with magic, like, you know, if you had any.
Yeah, it still helps out here. There are some spells you have to cast in the next area, and it's nice to be replenished without having to kind of force a level up or get an ether vial. Marcy also has pretty deadly aim. Too deadly sometimes, actually.
Yeah, those laser beams.
Yeah, certainly the most effective partner. That may just be due to circumstance. This boss fight is on a pretty small piece of land, and the boss is actually fairly large. So you could say that there's maybe not a lot of room to miss there. But still, I just like to think it's because Marcy is just a really good robot with a fairly well calibrated aim. All right, so I'm gonna need the axe again randomly and my blizzard spell, because these things do come back into play. Do that, and let's go ahead and sneak this through. And that through. Cool. And I'm actually gonna prepare some thunderbolts and keep my Madoc on for the next fight. And make sure that I'm on Dragon Buster because that's kind of important. It's kind of important to get damage. Also, Dime Tower. So there's actually 2 ways to climb this tower. It just works out this way is like way faster and skips a lot of heartache. When I first started running, I was going through the West Tower. Yeah, so Garuda. Garuda's actually behaving, except for that. This is the attack you don't want to see. It just takes up a whole lot of time. You can still get some damage in, though. Oh, that's... okay. Gonna attack a lot faster than I thought you were. Okay, so you kind of want to situate yourself in the middle of that, field. When Garuda dives, you can just do a full sword dash and hit him on the way out and on the way back, and then follow up with some Madoc hits too for a bit of additional damage. When Garuda's just kind of hanging out in the air like that, you want to just toss some thunderbolts at him. But time it well. So you do get your iframes. Should be enough there. Yeah, you want to get away from the barrage. Every now and then that feather barrage will come out. Okay. Oh, it keeps knocking Marcy out.
Oh no. Poor Marcy.
Okay, I'm fresh out of thunderbolts. And I'm missing my sword dashes too.
I'm trying to remember if you could use thunder on the bosses in the original one. I'm
just gonna kind of hang out until Garuda decides that he wants to dive again. Okay, there we go. Very close.
Ooh.
So moving on to the last section of the game. So once you beat Garuda, Dime Tower starts to collapse. There's a gap there, and Marcy just grabs Sumo and tosses him over to the other side and kind of tells him that she has rocket thrusters, and don't worry, I'll be over there in a second. But once he's over there, she reveals the truth. She doesn't have any rocket thrusters. So unfortunately, she's gonna go down with the tower itself.
Marcy! Are there any robotic laws that are apply here? Like, are robots allowed to lie?
I don't know actually. You're like the 3 laws of robotics. Is that
That's
in there?
right. I don't know. Is it one of the 3? I think they, no one really cares if robots are lying. They're more interested if robots are hurting us, Klinka Imra Miriam Tinkwa. Well,
Right,
we're going to be wandering
L.
around these ruins for a little bit. If there's any last any donations before we get to the end here.
Sure, we've got a $25 donation from none other than TASBot himself that just says, Marcy!
Oh, there we have it. So someone in chat's pointing out that Marcy was 3 laws compliant because she kept us safe at the cost of her life, which is one of the laws, right? That the people's lives are more important than the robots' lives. Something like that.
Okay. So, Mana Tower has a bunch of bosses. The first of which is this blue dragon, which I've just recently come up with some new strats.
And I believe all the bosses are dragons?
Yes, for the entire tower.
Okay. So that's probably why you
Minus the
picked up
final
that.
boss.
Do you get extra damage from that dragon sword?
You do, yes.
Cool. Okay.
The appropriately named sword for this tower. So it's actually really easy to get lost here. You can see that the Mana Tower doesn't have like the traditional stairs. You're always going to be hitting a warp point to go on. And usually the warp point is going to lead you to an atrium. And that's how you can more or less tell that you're going the right way. Okay. So I was blinded and I went on the correct path there. And then when that status effect wore off, I immediately went the wrong way. Anywho, sometimes I like to antagonize the ninjas that are jumping around here because they drop the strongest armor in the game. If you get that, it makes one of the more nerve-wracking boss fights here actually very, very easy, and the final boss as well. But it's so rare.
This
Like
looks fun.
you'll basically never see it. And the same goes for those like teleporting demon heads. They will drop the strongest helmet in the game. It's not really worth chasing after them though. It's much easier to kind of chase after the ninjas if you need. All right, so baiting out a melee attack doesn't work on the red dragon. So I'll need to take him down in kind of 3 phases. While he's spinning here, I'll just spin alongside him and get a bit more damage. So he gets there, I'll back off, damage boost a little bit, and wait until he finishes up. And he's gonna go in with blue flames here, and I'll just stand here and spin and take him out.
Awesome. So we got a red dragon, or, well, a blue dragon, then a red dragon. I think in Secret of Mana, you also had to fight, no, it was the Mana Pure Land. You had to fight like a bunch of dragons.
Yes, there are. There are also a bunch of dragons there. In a proud tradition that only went through these 2 games. Yeah, there are no dragons at the end of Trials unless you just count the Dragon Lord himself. Okay, so it's real easy to take a wrong turn here. You do need to go down here. If you keep going to the right, you're going to go on a circuit that leads around to nowhere.
This dungeon can be like, because all the rooms, you know, sort of the decor of all the rooms looks the same. You've kind of got minor differences in the pillars and things like that, but like, you know, if you don't like look at the map, because you do get a map in this game that you can like check, but even then, it's kind of hard to sometimes figure out where you're going and figure out that in a lot of cases you've got to find these secret passages.
Oh, what a good guy. That was magnificent RNG.
Nice.
All right, so coming up on the last boss of the tower. Also the hardest. There's a lot going on in this fight, and hopefully we don't see most of it.
We've definitely had a lot of fun with the bosses in this run.
So you might notice that he looks kind of Hydra-y. He reacts kind of the same as well. You can just start spinning in front of him. Fortunately, there is no hitbox on his body, so he can just kind of push you forward, and you can get all the damage on his heads. And not have to worry about those body shots. Uh-oh. Yeah, I am most certainly dead when those come out.
Wow.
When those giant, like, kind of smoggy fireballs appear, you can actually slice them with your sword while they're still airborne. But once they hit the ground and they start tracking, it's really hard to get away because they track on you really fast and the frame rate drops.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of bad. You can hardly tell what you're doing. Okay. Let's bait this out. Yeah, this boss is pain. It's just all pain.
And those fireballs are homing on you.
Yes, the regular fireballs are. And they're kind of scary because those are airborne as well. So those can also knock Sumo out of his spin. And then we have these poison clouds. Those don't track on you so hard. Oh my god. Okay.
Oh no. You fall to the ground, blinded
Those
and
don't
poisoned.
track on you so hard. They just kind of spread out. But again, poison is pretty scary. Yeah, this boss takes a few tries every now and then. You can just fill the screen with stuff, and it's pretty brutal. The best thing you can hope for is for him to dash out at you. Okay. Yeah, if he dashes out at you a second time, like the full way, not just halfway, then you're all good. Oh man. Okay. So Dragon Zombie's just gonna do his thing. This is why I have a 210 estimate. Pretty much this fight and Mantis Hand can just sometimes be really uncooperative.
That's right.
But
yeah, once we get through this guy, I think we're right at like the final mana area. It's just the final boss.
Okay. That's gonna happen. This fight's gonna get a bit more interesting this time around, I guess. Okay. Guess I'm dead.
Whoa.
Okay, we got a charge. Okay, there we go.
All right.
Okay, and just like X-Man said, you end up in the final area. Oh, okay. You get a
Beautiful.
fake out like that. These elephants also drop a really good item. They drop the Aegis shield, which is the strongest shield in the game. But they can also drop a unicorn horn, which is not quite as effective at this point. Just cures any ailment. But never mind that. Now we have the Sword of Mana, which is just called Excalibur in this game. Again, this is before a lot of that lore was established. Okay, and so in a second, I'm going to be fighting Julius. He's the final boss. And he's going to have 3 forms. The first form is very tricky. He's going to have himself out there on the field, and he's going to have 2 clones. And they're going to do different things. And in this version, we haven't found a way to track down the original clone. Or, I guess, Julius himself. I think there is a way to tell in the original. Here, they just kind of all look the same. So you just get as many sword dashes as you can and try to get at least 2 of them caught in that.
They're using different spells, but you can't tell by which spell they use, huh?
Yeah, I've got to stay away from that shield. The shield is the most dangerous. You can actually get one-shotted off that. After it breaks, it's not too bad.
So once you kill the clones, they stay dead, and then you eventually are left with the original one.
Okay. Oh,
Oh.
I've got 2 flames. There we go. Actually, kind of glad I got that level.
Yeah. Level ups are always nice.
Okay, so going into phase 2, he changes into something that looks kind of familiar. If you ever played the original Final Fantasy or some other Final Fantasy spin-offs, might recognize this character here. I don't think he has a dive kick in that in Final Fantasy though. So yeah, we got to watch for that. If you're too far away, he actually throw a lightning spell out, which is pretty dangerous. I really get nervous when he does that. Yeah, once you deal enough damage to him, he kind of goes into this attack phase. And I kind of want to bait out these melee attacks. Otherwise, he just jumps up out of the screen.
The
Okay,
music
it's
is
phase
so
2.
epic on this fight, too.
And time is going to be after you see the red flash on his 3rd phase here. The 3rd phase is actually quite a bit simpler. You just gotta, well, you gotta not get hit because everything's gonna one-shot you at this point.
Yeah, you've got Fuji to heal you, but, if you just get one-shotted...
Luckily, he is on a set pattern. So once you know that, you can just kind of avoid him. He has a humongous hitbox, and there's not very much space to move around out here. So you really got to be careful. Yeah, he just kind of teleports in and tosses a nuke spell and teleports out. Okay, there we go. That's time.
Woohoo!
Okay. I set my estimate pretty well there.
Oh. Yeah, this was pretty good. Thanks again for joining us.
The interesting thing is I literally just PB'd in this game, like, right before I came on here.
Wow. So what's your PB?
It's currently sitting at 157.
Okay. So, what happens at the ending here?
Yeah, so the mana tree explodes as Julius does. And actually, in the original, I believe that explosion can kill you.
That's right.
In this version, not so much. But yes, the mana tree is gone now, which was Fuji's mother.
That's right.
We get one more vision from her. And then after this, Fuji will go on to become the mana tree herself, and Sumo will be her Geminite, her protector.
Awesome.
And that's just kind of the general theme for at least the first 3 games in this series. The mana tree always seems to get destroyed, either at the end or near the end of the game.
But somehow everything's still all right.
Oops. Sorry about that. Don't know how long you want to let the ending run. It's not very long here.
No, but we do need to get on with our next run here. But yeah, thanks again, and everyone gives Smelly McTroll a follow here. He does quite a few other cool games.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here. Really appreciate it. I really love showing this game off.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Good luck to the rest of the runners. Anyone that is actually running. Suppose there's a lot of TASs. So.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks again, and thanks for letting me join in here and talk about this game.
Yeah, no worries.